there is an orchestrated plan, city by city, to target grocery stores and steal and loot because I guess come November 1st, EBT funds stop. Now, we're spending billions of dollars on these food stamps. Now, we can have a conversation if you want to today about single moms, people who've fallen on hard times, who definitely have to have some kind of help, okay? And we can talk about that. And the failure of maybe families and churches to take care of their own, things that we used to do as a nation. Well, let's just set those people aside. Maybe people that truly lost a job, lost a paycheck, fell on very hard times. And that's unfortunately sounds like it is going to be increasing as major corporations are laying off more and more and more employees as artificial intelligence and automation and robots takes over more and more jobs. And of course, people that have tried to find a job or had a job and then lost a job, and particularly if they're in their 50s and they try to find a job, it gets increasingly difficult for some of them. And it's not that they don't want to work. They would gladly take a job. They don't want to take food stamps. We can have that conversation about that and the solution, well, that we used to have in this country when it came to those kind of problems, which again went back largely to families, communities, and churches. But aside from the group that I just mentioned, so much of what we're spending in these billions and billions of dollars a month are going to people, which again, we mentioned yesterday, 59% of the illegals in America, according to one report, 59% of the illegals that are here in America are on food stamps. I don't know about you, but that makes me so angry because the federal government is constantly stealing my property, and your income is your property. And then we have the people that are not illegal aliens. They're from here. They're born here. Now, I've watched some of the videos today, and we have had to edit them up. But I notice a common theme. Many of them are overweight. So they clearly have more food stamps and more food than they need. Number one, some of these folks can go without food for quite some time. As long as they're drinking water, I think they're going to be fine for quite some time. I noticed the other thing is I shouldn't say the word all, many of them, the ladies, the gals, have their nails done. And that's not cheap. Not only do they have their nails done, some of them clearly have had some work done on their faces, like their lips. They're having their lips plumped up. Now, I'm not an expert on Botox, but my wife can tell that some of them are also getting Botox, which is, I don't let my wife get Botox. And any of you that get Botox, you should really rethink that one. It's called Botox. Go look up what is Botox. And when that became a thing, however many years ago, I said to my wife, that's not something you're going to be doing. Well, you can age with grace and beauty. And she is. But I'm like, think about that. You're putting Botox in your forehead near your brain. How's that going to end, you think? Well, interesting. I just read a report this week that Botox is leaking into the brains of some people. Oh, you don't have to be a scientist to know that. But boy, they can afford to get their nails done. Some of these gals that are on social media complaining about the end of their food stamps, they can get their nails done. They can get their Botox. They can get their lips plumped up. They can get their fake eyelashes on, and they can get body tattoos. And they got their hair braided. And they're all driving what look like to be nice cars because they like to film these little rants in their cars. And I'm thinking, why are you on food stamps? Apparently, we have a lot of people that don't want to work. And yet you and I get up every day, we work hard, as I tell you over and over, we pay our taxes so that our money, hard-earned money, doesn't go to building and expanding our organization or your business or your farm or your cattle herd. As we heard some ranchers last week saying, I want to build my cattle herd. I'd like to go bigger with my cattle herd so I can make a better living for my family. I'd like to be able to build this up and leave it to my son and my grandsons. No, we all have to be cheated. We all have to be destroyed from progress so that the bottom feeders can get all of their nails done, their hair done, their fake eyelashes, their Botox, and their body tattoos. And this is just one of the benefit programs. And when it's all said and done, folks, do you realize we, the middle class, as I've said 1,000 times, we're the cow, we get milked. The elite keep the cream. All the folks in Washington have the Cadillac health insurance. They have amazing retirement accounts in the House and the Senate. Amazing health care. All kinds of perks. Their buddies and friends, money gets diverted to their non-government organizations to the tune of billions and billions and billions. Their friends who fund their campaigns, their corporations get trillions of dollars in government contracts. So they milk us, the middle class. They keep the cream for themselves, the elite. The rest goes down to the folks that are now screaming and hollering that they're about to carry out a great purge come November 3rd. Well, that's fine, because guess what? This could backfire because Americans are sick of it. And I don't know why we haven't seen someone orchestrate a big Tea Party in America. We had the Tea Party, but the GOP destroyed the Tea Party because they cannot have Tea Parties because they need us, the middle class, to stay willing to be milked. Because that's how the folks in the GOP at the leadership make their money. It's a big, gigantic scam. You guys realize this now, and more are realizing it. And many of you have realized it for years. It's a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's racketeering. It's creating debt. You owe us. And if you don't give us what we want, we'll take your house, property tax. If you don't give us what we want, we'll throw you in prison. This is a gigantic racketeering Ponzi scheme. And now these folks that are getting your hard-earned money that should be going to you because, you work hard and you ought to be able to go out and afford some new furniture for your house. If you would like to buy your wife some new furniture, a new couch, a new chair. If you would like to go and get a new car because the one you got is worn out and you need a new one, you ought to be able to go out and do that. You work hard. You get up. You play by the rules. You pay your taxes, which you shouldn't have to be paying 99% of these taxes. But you do without. Every time you turn around, you're doing without. Because you have got to be robbed by the government so they can take your money, which is rightfully yours, and give it to somebody else so they can lay on the couch and watch TV, so they can go to the nail salon, so they can get their hair braided, so they can get their Botox, so they can get their body tattoos, so they can feed all of their children because they have chosen to have multiple children with multiple men. And they're on social media. What about my children? None of the daddies, and they talk about how many kids they got, and they got multiple kids with multiple daddies. But that's your problem now, folks. That's my problem. That's on us. We have to pay for it. And you do without over and over. But this inflation is chewing up many people. Electricity bills are going up so they can build more data centers. so they can then steal more of your jobs. And at some point, the middle class is going to say, I'm out. But come November 3rd, they're planning a big purge, the purge. Now, I don't know what the purge is. I have no idea what that means. I just know it was a TV show or a movie or something. So I asked the guys in the control room, the guys in their early 20s that know the pop culture of that generation, what do they mean when they keep talking about November 3rd is coming the purge? What does that mean to them? I mean, I know when you purge something, but what does that mean in context to the movies or TV shows? I've not seen those shows. What does that mean? You know what it means? What the boys in the control room said? It's 24 hours where they legalize murder. 24 hours where they legalize murder. That's the purge. And some of these folks are on social media bragging that November 3rd is going to be the purge. They're also bragging that if they can't get into the stores and steal the food, which they're planning to do, as I warned yesterday, because I know how these people work, they're planning on flash mobs, and they're already planning the route, the streets that they're going to go to, and what stores they're going to go to, and at what time. And if they can't get in, then they're going to say take the groceries, the buggy, the cart of people coming out. Well, there are people down here in the South, and you can tell they're from the South because of their Southern accent, that are saying, anyone that tries to steal my groceries going to my car, I'm going to practice my Second Amendment rights. Now, I don't want to see anybody get shot and killed over a bag of potato chips. And people should not be taking action against anyone unless they feel their life is at threat. That's the standard. I feared for my life or bodily harm of great consequence, right? But the sides are now drawing up, and they're all talking to each other. One side saying, if you guys do this to me or confront me or steal my groceries, this is what I'm going to do. The other side is saying, we're coming for what's ours, and you better hold on tight to your purses. You thought you had to clutch your purse tight before? You ain't seen nothing yet. You better clutch that purse real tight because we're coming for what's ours. What? How many of you have heard this? Where are our elected leaders warning about this? I'm going to play some of the clips in Leo Holman next.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Some breaking news. The Federal Reserve has just announced that they are cutting interest rates for the second time in 2025, reducing it by 25 basis points. Now, I know they think that they're going to generate home sales, et cetera, if they keep doing this, but the guy I interviewed the other night said they could cut it to zero, and many people will not go buy houses because the houses are overpriced and they can't afford the house even with the cut in interest rates because of everything else that's going up in price. So that is what's going on now. All right, so November 3rd, is that Monday, guys? But some are saying it's going to start on Saturday, they're telling me. Some of their videos are saying it starts Saturday, November 1st. So I frankly would go ahead and stock up right now and not be at the grocery store in these days. I don't think it's safe. Look, I saw a video today of a Jewish man from overseas. He was here in the U.S. visiting. He was in New York. walking down the street. He had his little Jewish hat on, his little beanie. And someone sees him walking down the street with that little beanie on and thought it was a great opportunity to go after this man because he's Jewish, doesn't even know him. Knocked his hat off and then punched him in the face violently. He had to be taken to the hospital, and I think he suffered a brain bleed, if I read that correctly. People are violent. They're debased. And this has been going on since at least, obviously, on steroids since 2020, but before that even. America is a racist nation. Capitalism is evil. And some of these folks, by the way, are making videos talking about that this is the end of capitalism. This is the consequence of capitalism. No, it's not. This is the consequence of socialism. If it was real pure capitalism, you wouldn't have food stamps. You wouldn't have welfare programs. And can you imagine what the unemployment rate would be if we didn't have the tax burden we have? How many farmers and ranchers and carpenters and plumbers and electricians and homes would be built and sold, and all the things that would be going on, and anyone that wanted a job could find a job because companies would be going and growing and capitalized because the tax rate was so small that we could all pay for our own health care and our own food because the system was working with pure capitalism. We haven't had that since 1913 when they created the Federal Reserve. But they're saying it might start as soon as Saturday. Now, what is it? We'll get to it. We're going to play some of the clips. Joining me now is Leo Holman. Leo, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Have you seen some of these clips, Leo?
I'm not sure.
Some of the clips where they're talking about what they're going to be doing at the grocery store?
Yeah, I've seen some of those. They're all over TikTok for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is $100 billion program, as I understand it, the food stamps program. It's been growing steadily for decades. I think it probably started with good intentions. I don't believe everybody getting food stamps is of the type you described, but there is that element out there.
Right, and you notice,
sure.
I just to clarify, I did talk about some people that lose their job, they're needy, they have a serious problem, they get on them, it's a short-term solution, and they go and try to find a job. I started out talking about that, right? But what
I missed the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, so then you missed my setting up the disclaimer of I'm not talking about those folks. Okay,
right.
I'm talking about the 59% of illegal aliens that are on these food stamps. Okay?
And legal aliens
and the legal aliens and the Americans.
My book Stealth Invasion made clear that one of the very first things that the NGOs do when refugees arrive on U.S. soil from, all of these nations that hate us, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, Somalia, Sudan. The very first thing that the NGOs that are typically affiliated with church groups do is they sign them up. They sign up their children for public schools, and they sign the family up for food stamps. That is a documented fact.
And that's
so
that
you're
Cloward
absolutely
strategy.
right.
That's that Cloward Piven strategy of overwhelm the system and collapse it.
Absolutely. And that's what we've seen happen over the last few decades. When these programs started, most of them with part of the Great Society, Lyndon Baines Johnson, we needed a social safety net, blah, 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 blah. Maybe that was good intentions. But whenever you start a free giveaway from the government, it always ends up being abused and it never gets reined in. Notice they usually start these things as, it's necessary because we have a crisis going on. We have a crisis of hunger and we've got to do something about it. That may be true, but the problem with government is it never shuts down the program after the original mission is fulfilled. After the crisis is passed, you end up with these programs in perpetuity. And what do? They grow, they feed on themselves. And now we have generations, Brandon, generational welfare recipients who know nothing other than the lifestyle that you described, sitting home, working, not working a job or working less of a job than they're able. They're working 20 hours a week when they could be working 40, and they're collecting food stamps on the side. Not to say I'm estimating that at least 25 to 30% of food stamp recipients could find alternative ways to feed their family if prodded, if necessary. Mm-hmm. My concern, Brandon, is this. After decades, we're talking 50, 60 years of the program like this growing bigger and bigger. If we pull the rug out from under it, like rip a Band-Aid off of a small cut, it ends up creating a worse situation, and the bleeding starts to gush out because these people are, as I said, dependent on the government generationally, okay? And so instead of gradually cutting back the program and retraining these people in what it means to get up and go to work every day, I'm afraid we're going to have violence. I really am.
Yeah, well, they're saying they're going to. You don't have to wonder about it. They're bragging about it on social media. And I'm going to play some of the clips. We've edited them out and made them appropriate for airing. And I want you to hear the violence and the revenge and the anger and the hatred and the coveting. This is cultural Marxism's baby. Okay, this is the haves against the have-nots, Cloward Piven hatred and animosity toward achievers and the middle class and capitalism coming home to roost. Listen to this, folks. Here's what's coming November 3rd or sooner, maybe even soon as Saturday. Here we go. Here's the first couple.
People, my people, I wish we stopped crying about the EBT card. At the end of the day, they trying to see is we going to stick together. And we are going to stick together. November 3rd at 6:30, we're going to Walmart. We're going to Walmart. And at 7:30, we're going to walk out of Walmart with our buggies, okay? The thing is, they can catch everybody. You feel me? All you got to do is run, Forrest, run, okay? We have to stick together. It don't even matter. As long as we going to have everything we need for Thanksgiving, that's all that matters. Run, Forrest, run. Remember, put it in your calendar. November 3rd, 6:30 to 7:30.
Is that in the morning? It certainly is not in the morning. It has to be at night, right, Logan? There's no way they're up at 6:30 in the morning. They're lucky if they're up by noon. 6:30 at night, Walmart. We're going to get everything we need for Thanksgiving. That's all that matters. And for folks on radio, she kept holding her fist up and making the Black Power sign, the revolution sign, over and over, the fist sign, the revolution sign. They really think, Leo, they are justified, that they have the moral high ground. As you watch these videos, they tell you what they're going to do, and then they tell you oftentimes their justification for doing it. They really believe this is burning down the system that has enslaved them and corrupted them, and that they are owed this money. They're owed these food stamps. They are righteous in their receiving of them, and that their cause is the moral high ground. Leo?
Yeah, that's called entitlement, right? That's why they call these programs entitlements. There's nothing hidden here. It's all out in the open. And again, this is not to denigrate, the senior citizen who can't afford health care and because of the crazy cost increases of insurance and food and everything that we've seen over the last 5 years since COVID. There's legitimate need out there and a lot of it.
And let me stop you right there. That legitimate need is created by the unconstitutional and corruption of the governments. Anyone has to do is go read the little book by Frederick Bastiat, The Law. It's a very small little book. But these people that have been pushed to have to get on food stamps who don't want to be on food stamps. There is a small percentage of them, or what percentage it is, but it's not the illegals. It's not the people that don't want to work. It's the people that have fallen on hard times, who have never been on any kind of program ever in their entire life, don't want to be, but now have found themselves where the income just doesn't make it. And that's because of inflation. That's because of corruption.
Right.
That's because of socialism. That's because of taxing people so you can turn around and give it to other people. And finally, they have given away so much of their money under the compulsion of taxation that finally they're like, I don't have enough money now for myself. I can't now, because of inflation and the litigious society we live in, I can't afford my insurance because my insurance has gone high due to the fact we haven't had the legal reform we need. And when you figure everything together, I'm now having to choose between my medications and food, right? Now, all of that was created largely due to too much government and too little government and regulation to reward the righteous, punish the wicked, make a stable and just society. No, we're not going to let corporations create monopolies. We're not going to let them financially rape people, okay? Monopolies are when the government is not doing their job to make things stable and correct and right. So you have too much government, you have too little government. It's a balancing act. But then you create this massive inflation, and now people who never, ever, ever, ever dreamed that they would ever need food stamps do. And frankly, it's not their fault. It's the government's fault. But that's the goal. The goal is to put as many people on the program as possible. People that want to be on it, and people that don't want to be on it, but who are forced to go on it.
And those people that you just described who don't want to be on it, you know, the senior citizen who can no longer afford to the car insurance, the homeowner's insurance, the health insurance, all of which has just gone up exponentially over the last 5 years. Those aren't going to be the people out stealing your groceries on Saturday.
No, they're not.
Okay?
No. They're not going to be the ones out stealing your groceries. They sure are not, okay? Now, we come back and play one or two more. But that gal kept holding up the revolution fist, okay? Right. The revolution fist. And Leo, when I come back, we'll play some more clips, but I got to ask you, do you think the Marxist Democrats have kept this shutdown going, anticipating what's coming, again, to bait Donald Trump, to get something to happen? He sends out the guard, they get video footage, and then they're going to use it for the 2026 midterm. Stay tuned.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage, and now, real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. Leo, do you believe the Marxist Democrats, and that's not that the GOP is that much better, there's the Marxists in the Democrat Party, and then there's the communitarians in the Republican Party. And George W. Bush's own guys admitted they were doing communitarianism, big government, big business mixed together, also called fascism, also called corporate fascism, corporatism, other name. So the one group's the Marxist, the other group are your corporate fascists. But do you think and they're battling each other, and a lot of times they're also playing each other's roles as part of the process of the uniparty. Do you believe the government shutdown is going to be on purpose in order to cause this crisis and then have President Trump respond with National Guard strike force that they're planning for every state to be ready to go by April of 2026? And I'm sure many of them are ready to go now, so that they can get video footage. for the midterms? Or do they even care about the midterms? At this point, is it, let's just go ahead and start burning down the whole system? We need civil war. We need civil unrest. Because again, I don't know what China's planning. I don't know what Russia's planning. I know I know we're going around as a country telling everybody what they can and cannot do and using sanctions and weaponizing the dollar. And, you know, Putin has come out today, I'll play it on Brandon House Live tonight, saying we just have done a nice big test with the Poseidon, which is something we've been talking about now here on this broadcast with the late Dr. Peter Vincent Pry for years. The Poseidon is in my 2019 documentary, Siege. Logan, make sure we grab that footage for tonight, please. This is an unmanned submarine, Poseidon. It carries a humongous nuclear warhead. And it can be used to create an electromagnetic pulse to the point that it takes out our nuclear subs who can't receive any of the nuclear launch codes and commands from our other part of the nuclear triad. And so people need to understand Putin has just tested this thing. It's his second time now to appear the other day in military camouflage. And now he's announced the test of Poseidon. So you have to wonder at what point are some of our enemies, also foreign and domestic, orchestrating this to create massive confusion in the country. And we have warned there's no telling what terrorist groups could do while you also have this massive confusion and your police and first responders are distracted by the civil unrest and disobedience. Can you imagine Al-Qaeda and these other groups that say, hey, maybe we should move our timeline up? Because now that the first responders are so distracted with what the Americans and illegals on food stamps are doing, this is a great time to go. I mean, this is not a joke. And I guess got to get your response.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that this could be the 0-hour event that the Muslim Brotherhood said it was looking forward to, from back in the early 2000s when the FBI discovered their explanatory memorandum in the safe house in Virginia. They talked about waiting for a 0-hour event when they would call out their mobs of jihadis to take advantage of the chaos and disorder that ensued. I kind of vote for the latter scenario. I don't think they care too much about elections at this point.
Me neither.
I think, I mean, I really see both sides are loaded for bear. Both the Republican side and the Democrat side have lost touch with reality. And they're when it gets to that point, Brandon, they're easily manipulated. It takes two sides to go to war. And when both sides want war, guess what? You're going to have war. And so I see that taking place on the international front between the U.S. and NATO, with Russia, China on the other side. And I see the same thing taking shape domestically here at home with this left-right paradigm, this powder keg that's been cultivated over the decades and manipulated, where it's no longer we disagree with the Republicans say to the Democrats, we disagree with your policies, we think they're wrong, and vice versa. It's now you're a danger to our democracy and you need to be eliminated. That seems to be where both sides are at now, Brandon.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's roll the next video. Folks, you could spend your whole day watching these videos where they're telling you what they're going to do. They're planning it. They're setting the times. They're even telling you what streets they're going to take to get there. They're organizing carpools with each other. Here we go. Here's the next clip.
Walmart allegedly took notice of the No Snitch November. They will be adding security guards to in-store locations. So No Snitch November just became Help People Steal November. It just became Hold Security Back November. It just became Help People Live November.
So y'all, I'm just thinking, I gotta come up with a master plan. They didn't cut my food stamps. I'm down to my last pack of noodles and 2 bars of soap. Something gotta shake. I'm just trying to see when we going to get the groceries. I'm thinking tomorrow a good day. We can start tomorrow. I got a route for this. We gonna start that up in New Temple. We gonna run that to Wesley Chapel, swing that down, Bruce be down. We gonna gas up in the city. We with the city because if we city, them hoes gonna be ready to die out there. So we gonna leave them alone. Bring that up round Brandon. Take that through Riverview. Swing that through Apollo. Depending on what time it is, we could take that clean down Del Mabry. Wrap that around town and country. We done. Whole thing is I need a ride. I can't take my car. But I think that's a clean route.
There's a clean route. She named off all of the places they're going to go, if you could understand that ghetto talk. But she's got our where, all the routes she's going to go, what streets, what stores we're going to do it. We're going to gas up here, and then we're going to go and we're going to wrap it all up and be done. But I need a ride because I can't take my car.
Unbelievable, Brandon. Unbelievable.
And as once again, our officials at the local, state, and federal level, they're all failing us. Okay? Because you never hear any of them that I can find on social media that I'm aware of are making videos warning people up front and warning people, be careful. Like right now, if I were the sheriff, I would have already made several videos telling these degenerates what's going to be happening if you try this in my county. Okay? Let me tell you what's going to be happening if you try this in my county. You ever heard of Buford Bus? What's his name? From Walking Tall. It's going to be Walking Tall. That actually is a real sheriff that was here in Tennessee, not far at all from where I'm sitting. Husser, I think that was his last name. Buford. It's going to be Walking Tall. And we're going to tell you right now, these are the rules. This is how it's going to go down. So you do this, here's what's going to happen. So don't you do it. Now, to the citizens, I'm going to urge you guys, do not go out there and incite these people. Okay? Don't go out there and be vigilantes. Don't go out there and think you're going to shoot somebody because they're stealing your grocery buggy. Because some of you are out there on social media talking about how if you do this to me, I'm going to do this to you. This is what the globalists, elitists, the power elite, the change agents, this is what they want. Don't play into their hand. So as your sheriff, I'm going to ask you to go do your grocery shopping, have everything you need, and then stay at home. And we'll keep you posted. Follow us on social media. We'll give you alerts and tell you what's happening. But I don't need you getting in the middle of this and mixing it up. Now, if you had some responsible, plugged-in sheriffs, you'd start seeing videos like this already, okay? But like always, our elected officials, they don't know, most of them, anything related to what's really going on and the big picture. They don't even know the mosque down the street. They don't know the name of the imam, most of them, and they don't know the terrorist and terrorist-tied imams they bring in to speak. They don't, because we had one right down the street, and they didn't know who Yasser Qadi was. And then when I would say, do you know who Siraj Wahaj is? No. Well, he's an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center, and he just spoke. Oh, don't even know who these people are. Well, they're right in your town. Well, that's because, Leo, did you know that our police departments used to have intelligence divisions, and they would share intelligence? And most of those intelligence divisions have been broken up. They have been disbanded. And even some of them have been disbanded thanks to Frank Church in the 1970s with the Church Committee. And so your local police have and your sheriffs have very poor intelligence. Now they have their fusion centers and whatnot, but they don't, they know their fusion centers, and they have some of those things, and they know very well what the pro-lifers are up to, and the Christians and the patriots and our Worldview weekends, because when we had a Worldview weekend, we got a visit from a guy with an iPad telling me about everything. And I'm like, how do you know all this? And he turned his iPad around and he said it came from the Fusion Center from the Department of Homeland Security. Okay. They knew all about us and who we were and what we were doing in town. But they couldn't tell you what was going on with the Muslims and the jihadis and the Marxists. So I'm sorry to tell you this again. Your local law enforcement is largely useless. They are there to take names and do reports after it's over. But how many leaders are getting in front of this now, Leo?
Well, they still have their intelligence units. It's called Palantir. They farmed it out to private enterprise, and they're gathering more data than ever on private citizens. The problem is they're gathering it on the wrong ones,
That's
like
right.
you said. They've criminalized people who have tried to be the watchdogs of our society. I know a lady who used to be in charge of the Act for America chapter in West Virginia. And when she was at the airport holding a sign protesting against Ilhan Omar, she ended up with a knock at the door. This is a woman in her 70s, a grandmother who had never broken a law in her life, outside of maybe a traffic ticket. And she ended up with a knock at the door from her local fusion center, Brandon, with an FBI agent wanting to ask her some questions about her activity at the airport. This is what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about jihadis. They're not concerned about Antifa. They're not concerned about Marxist radicals who are planning these uprisings. They're concerned about you, law-abiding, patriotic American citizens who were identified first during the Obama regime and later under Biden as a threat to American democracy. This is not a joke. This is not made up. It's all documented. It started under Obama when he purged. You talk about a purge. Obama purged all federal training manuals of any mention of Islam being any sort of a insurrectionist threat to America, Brandon. And it only grew this whole process under Biden. And, I personally don't know the state of it right now under Trump.
Let's go to the next clip. Here we go. Okay. Now, here's a white gentleman. We'll play it when we come back. Here's a white gentleman saying what he's going to do if they try taking his groceries. Okay. Now, this is where I say, no. Don't play into the hands of the anti-Second Amendment. They would love to see someone shoot someone over a bag of groceries. Don't play into their hand. We'll play this clip when we come back. 1-800-347-9829. Take a couple calls. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. We'll be right back.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity, all from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. What do you think of all this, and how much do you think this is orchestrated to bring the division and the chaos that can be exploited for political reasons, but also by jihadis and the Marxists, the red-green axis? 1-800-347-9829. Now, this is a guy, a white gentleman, sounds like he's from the South. And this is the kind of talk we don't need. And this is what people don't need to be involved in. Watch and listen. Here we go.
So you're going to steal my basket full of groceries after I leave the store? Yeah, I don't think so there, Hen. I've seen a lot of videos talking about how people's EBT is getting cut off. And so they're going to be stealing groceries straight out of the store. But I've also seen a lot of videos talking about how people are going to grab baskets whenever they come out of the store. That way they're not stealing from the store, they're stealing from an individual. Well, you grab my shopping cart full of groceries that I bought and paid for with my money, and you're going to hear two sounds. There's going to be three sounds. Maybe. There's certainly going to be two sounds. The first sound you're going to hear is me saying, now, Han, that's a bad idea there. Better walk the on. If you don't walk on, that'll be the next sound you hear. And the third sound, son, I'll hear it. You won't. No, sir. Now, people are going to come back on this video and say, oh, you'd end somebody over a basket full of groceries? Yeah, I would.
All right, and this is what we don't need, because this is playing right into the hands. Now, I understand the frustration of that gentleman and others. We all feel this frustration, right? Because we also understand the root cause of this, and it's multi-decade root cause, right? But I would say to that gentleman, while I appreciate your passion and your frustration because you see the problem and you're tired of it as well, versus just being apathetic and passive and saying, I don't care, it is what it is. I at least appreciate the fact you're clued in and you're upset about what they've done to our country. But if you love your country and you love your Second Amendment, don't play that game. We also have to be careful that people don't get murdered, okay? There's a difference between self-defense and murdering someone. Okay. And someone taking your groceries is not a life-threatening event unless, of course, they're doing it with a gun or a knife and you feel like you're in risk of great bodily harm and or death. But killing people over groceries when your life isn't at risk over it, that could be murder. And the Bible speaks to that issue. So everybody needs to understand up front what's going on here, what the gaslighting is about, and what could be going down. And I employ the men in the audience to protect your children, your wife, your community, the older people in your community who maybe aren't plugged in. Call them. Ma'am, have you done your grocery shopping? Please go do it. Or I'll help you. I'll go with you, whatever. But we're going to get your grocery shopping done before Saturday. Okay? Let's take some leadership, men, and make sure that the widows, the orphans, the single moms, the disabled veteran, the people that maybe aren't plugged into social media are aware of what's coming. So innocent lives are not put at risk because they got caught up in mayhem because no one warned them. Because apparently your law enforcement are not doing what I'm doing right now. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's start out with Dick in line 4 out of Maryland. Hi, Dick.
Hey, I'm going to give you a live testimonial. This is why, listen, you're the only program talking about this. Nobody else is probably talking about it. What I wanted to mention is I think Leo mentioned the word Palantir. I think we have to be aware there are people in this country who make a lot of money when people misbehave and they can drop a security blanket on top of them. That's what Palantir does. It's a surveillance program, and I think we should be aware that there could be people, even who people we think are good people, that are okay with some level of violence in America so that the next level of state police state can be dropped upon them. And that is called Palantir. People make money from it, and they're all over the Trump administration.
That is so well put. That is so well put. Yes. Wow. Greg in Minnesota,
100%.
line 1. Greg, go ahead, Greg. Hi, Greg.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
As far as these government programs, and I was a single parent. I raised my son. I worked hard. I worked as hard as I could, and I didn't qualify for any of these programs. But in the end, I'm like, only with God's help did I make it. But I mean, it was like, and I see these people who, they're lazy. They don't want to work, and it frustrates me. I'm retired, so I'm not. I know what I live on, but it's just it frustrates me to no end.
Well, and it frustrates a lot of us, and a lot of it is just laziness and entitlement that they're owed it, right? Mary, line 2. Mary, thank you for calling in. Mary, what are your thoughts today, ma'am?
Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
Yeah, I kind of mirroring what the previous caller just said is, for the most part, the folks who are getting all these entitlements have zero initiative. So I think an answer to, is this being orchestrated by someone else? It must be. But now if some of them are agitated into this excitement about, you're stealing what belongs to us, that might motivate some of those folks. And back to what you were talking about last night, when are people going to finally move? I don't know what to do. It's hard. Don't shop on a certain day is one thing, but how do we fight back? It's just, frustrating for a lot of us, and you understand. But
absolutely, it's frustrating because you've got your government working against you. Your government has manufactured this problem, and oftentimes on purpose. So how do you come against your government that is actually the source and manipulator of the problem, Leo?
That's always the challenge. And that's a great question by Mary. We cannot shop on Saturday, but what happens if this continues and then you have the next Saturday and the next Saturday and the next Saturday? A lot of people are going to have to start thinking more long-term, Brandon. How can I rely less on the system? Right? I'm going to have to start growing some of my own food. I'm going to have to start, getting a water filter and making plans for my family to be able to filter clean water. Things that make us less reliant on the system are long-term going to make us less enslaved to the system.
Indeed.
And that's what I see happening. Yeah.
And I would ask, how many pastors are putting out email alerts right now, phone tree to their congregation, telling them what's coming and saying, we're shepherds. We're looking after the sheep. We're telling you what's coming, unless, I guess, the food stamps open back up. This is what they're saying they're going to do. So we would ask our congregation to go and prepare accordingly, and then to be looking after the widows and orphans in our congregation, checking on them. Look, guys, leadership, pastors, leadership, come on. Stay tuned for Crosstalk.
We may have to start, we may have to start things like community vegetable
gardens. Right. We'll take care.
Things like this. Yeah.
And we're back with WRS at Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview 2. We may have to start what, Logan? Or Leo?
Pastors and organizers, leaders may have to start thinking out of the box, and things like community vegetable gardens, to feed the people who can't afford to buy at the grocery store, the elderly, the infirm, the children who are have single parents in your congregation. We need to stop thinking of the government as the go-to source for providing for people's needs. And
Leo, that's a great point, because this is actually a little test. What are you going to do when it's hyperinflation? Yes. Let's say they turn the EBT back on, but it goes to a point where the EBT cards aren't covering it anymore, right? You go to hyperinflation or massive inflation to the point it's not covering it, you're going to be back in the same spot, right? And now your senior citizens and people on a fixed income who are not on those food stamps, their income from their fixed income of retirement isn't going to cover it. And this is what I have talked to many pastors about on this broadcast. How many churches do you have cots? You have blankets. You have a closet full of freeze-dried food with a 25-year shelf life. You have everything you need to bring in, if necessary, the people at your church to get their meals, right? Even if they're not staying on the grounds. But what if you have social unrest and you've got to bring in some of the folks, right? Are you prepared to set up the ability to feed some of the most vulnerable in your own congregation? Or have you been so busy building massive buildings and huge staffs that you have forgotten what is the purpose of the local New Testament church, which for 200 years after the resurrection of Christ had no buildings, by the way. Now, if you want to have a building, I have no problem with that. I'm not speaking against that. But first things first. And when I have talked to pastors over the years about such things, you can see in their face they've never even considered that. And then after you mention it to them, none of them go do it. Why on earth, if you have these big, huge buildings, you can't have $50,000, $100,000 in freeze-dried food locked away for an emergency with blankets and cots and whatever we need? If there's a natural disaster, or if there's a financial problem, or there's war, or the power grid goes down, that we can go and get the most vulnerable in our congregation. What are you going to do with some of the people that are in nursing homes that were your long-term congregation members, donors, supporters? founders of the church, you're going to let them languish and die in a nursing home because you don't go and get them, because you're not thinking about your sheep? Why would you not go out and get your sheep and bring them in any of these natural disasters or man-made consequences? But they don't. I don't know hardly any churches that do this. Do you?
I don't. Well, there are some. I have heard of some. I also know of one here locally that recently stopped doing it because it got too expensive. There was such a growing need, and the lines every weekend were growing longer and longer for people to come and get the food, that they just said we can't keep up with it anymore.
But I'm talking about the flock. I'm not talking about what they give to the community. Yeah. I'm talking about a plan that's specifically run by the shepherds for the protection and provision of the sheep in an emergency. Their own responsibility. I'm not talking about ministry of outside the building. I'm talking about the purpose of a New Testament fellowship, which includes protection physically and spiritually. Now, first, our responsibility is as a family. He who does not provide for his family is worse than an infidel. But some of these people don't have any family. Their kids live multiple states away. Their spouse has died, and she's all alone, right?
Yes, 100% agree with that, Brandon. That should be the very first priority of any local church.
Do we have a list of all the people that are shut-ins? Do we have a list of our people that are even in nursing homes? Because here's a great question. Did we learn anything from the hurricane down in Louisiana 20 years ago? Who is going to be caring for these folks? If you have this, how many of the nursing home workers are going to come in, right? And so, wait a minute. We've got to get over to X nursing home because, you know, Sister Sally is over there. She's 80 years old. She's bedridden. She could be over there basically by herself or with two people trying to care for a nursing home full of people. And you know she's not being changed and taken care of. We got to have a list of where our people are, and we, the men, will go out and get them and bring them in here. And we're ready and we're prepared because we have thought about these things and we're ready to care for our sheep. And if you're not doing that, then you're disqualified. I'm sorry. You're disqualified. Move on. Go get a job at a hardware store or sweeping. You're disqualified. Closing comment, Leo?
100% agree. And that involves what? Intelligence gathering and organization. That is the type of prep work that should be going on right now so that when we have this SHTF event come down, they're ready and they know where people are to go help them in their people from their own congregation, like you said.
If you're counting on your police, your politicians, and your pastors, quote pastors, you're in big trouble. Prepare your own.
Yes.
Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcast.
Colonel Rob Maness says a lot.